Hello, hello. Yo, are you guys here? Hello, hi, how's it going? How's it going, everybody? What? There's already all kinds of people on YouTube. We're running a little bit late today, but we have Dr. Anne Ramoyne here, who is, oh man, she's awesome. She is one of the most respected infectious disease experts on the face of the planet. Let me get everything worked out here. But she's going to be here to talk about hantavirus. And as the hantavirus story gets bigger and bigger, more and more questions are popping up. And the truth is, whether this becomes something big or whether this is isolated and we're able to get a handle on it, like this is such a wonderful time to remind ourselves how unpredictable viruses can spread and can mutate on planet Earth. It is one of the things that you don't think about until all of a sudden, you know, you're staring down the barrel of a pandemic. We all saw how disruptive it was. We also saw how much, you know, confusion happened afterwards. No one wants to repeat that. And yet, as technology gets better and better, like we're going to be able to detect things more quickly. We're going to be able to see patterns emerging. Imagine if we would have known like the beginning of a cold, like when the first cold was ever transmitted, and we're like, oh my gosh, this cold has a high transmission rate, a high contagion rate, and then the next thing you know, like everybody is freaking out about it, or the flu, influenza, they're different strains. We now are at a place with our technology and our detection that we're going to see the emergence of new strains all the time, and we're going to put a name on them, and we're going to do what humans do. We're going to see patterns everywhere, and then we are going to freak out because that's what we do. We don't like to do it, but it's part of our evolution. We're not used to having this much information all the time, and yet when we do and we see a pattern that is somewhat threatening, what do? We stress. So this is the news for people that want to stress the right amount. We're going to try to put it into context for you. And that context requires looking at the best case scenario and the worst case scenario. Right? Right? I don't know. I think that's at least what we're going to try to do in 5 minutes. Hi. Hello. How's it going? James. Hi. Great to see you. Ape? Is that a gorilla? William Morales, wonderful to see you. Television broadcast limited. I don't know. I'll have to take a look. I've been, once again, all over the place. We were just at Milken doing another panel on AI and what's going to happen to everybody's job. And when those jobs change or are taken by AI or whatever happens, are people going to be pissed? Yes, a lot of them are. And can they be retrained? Can they find purpose? Can they find happiness? And what is it that makes us feel fulfilled? Big questions that we now look to tech to answer. Is that who we should be looking to? I'm not sure. Lisa's doing great. She's doing much, much better. She was walking around 30 Rock today, happy to say. My mic should be on, yeah. Can you hear me okay? I don't think I turned it off. Oh, I think Studio W might have turned it down. Hey, Studio W, can somebody turn on? Yeah, they're turning it on. Get married, have kids. There's your stress. Checkity, check, monkey beasts. That's exactly what I've done. Let's see, Puerto Rico, remote jobs are coming back. Oh, interesting, because of high gas prices? Wait, so people are working remotely because they can't afford to go to work. That's crazy. That's wild. Interesting. Hag, thank you so much. Wait, should I call you Hag? That sounds like should I call you Gorilla? Hagarilla? How about Hagarilla? That sounds nice, right? Okay, I'm going to call you Hagarilla. Let's see, what else? All right, so we got TikTok starting to populate here. Thank you so much. Got a big mic in the studio. Got Sid over there working the good old Ronin. We have 2 minutes and 30 seconds until we are off to the races. Let's go see who is up in New York. There's all the homies. That is everybody in the control room. Oh, and is that Lisa? Look at that. That's Lisa over there in the corner with the hand up. Yes. Oh, love to see it.
How are you?
Yeah. She's talking to you, Stream. She doesn't care about how I'm doing.
Yeah,
she cares about how you guys are doing.
I care about the stream. Sorry.
Oh, man. Mike, everybody's asking how you're doing today.
We're doing good. Honestly, a little sore.
Whoa.
Yeah, Mike's got fans.
30 Rock is big.
30 Rock is huge, huge. MMA Wifey, that ship is worrying me. Yeah, we've got two people to talk about it. So we're going to be talking to Camila Bernal, who's been doing incredible reporting, and we're going to be talking to Anne Ramoyne. She is, like, you know, she's one of the most well-respected epidemiologists in the entire world. She's amazing. And so we talked to her during the Ebola outbreaks, during COVID. She is the source of knowledge on anything. She teaches classes on this. So MMA Wifey, is your significant other a fighter? Because we're also talking about the White House today, and you probably saw Perea and Gaethje, and everybody's like behind the president, looking forward to June 14th, I think it is, where they are going to throw down on the front lawn. So we'll see how that goes. But what do you think about that? Info would be great. What weight is your fighter? It's going to be a good wait. Which fight out of, I think there's what, six fights that we're going to see? 155. Oof, scrappy.
30.
Scrappy. All right. Okay, 30 seconds. Stay tuned. This is going to be a good show for everybody. Here we go. And if you're just joining us and you're like, wait, what did I even stumble upon? Chris the Enigma. All right, I'm going to look him up right after this. In 10 seconds, the news is going to start. It's going to start over here on the side, or over here on the side. It's going to look like a legitimate news show, because it is.
5,
And here it goes.
4, 3.
Hey there, I'm Gotti Schwartz, and we are starting tonight with some breaking news out of a New York courtroom where a federal judge just unsealed a possible suicide note left by Jeffrey Epstein. Now, we're going to show it to you now. It is just one page, just a couple sentences long, a little difficult to read, but some parts we can make out. Investigated me for months. Time to say goodbye. To be clear, this was an incident where Epstein managed to hurt himself, but he survived. Now, the authenticity of that letter has not been verified by law enforcement, nor has it been authenticated by the DOJ. But again, it has now been released publicly in court documents. Now let's bring in NBC's Laura Jarrett, who's been all over this breaking news. Laura, what are we learning tonight?
Hey, Gotti, good to be with you. So we are just getting this purported suicide note from Jeffrey Epstein unsealed. At the request of media outlets, including the New York Times, they had petitioned a federal judge to try to get it unsealed after they had talked to Epstein's cellmate, who is the one that he says that he actually discovered it back in 2019. He says he gave it to his attorney. It's been tied up in unrelated litigation. It's just now coming out. Again, it's handwritten. It's less than a page. It's handwritten, and so it's hard to see at certain times. This is what appears to say, Gotti, quote, they investigated me for months, found nothing, so 15-year-old charges reinstated. It goes on to say, it is a treat to be able to choose one's time to say goodbye. What you want me to do? Bust out crying, no fun, not worth it. Now, again, we have not authenticated this note as, in fact, coming from Epstein. The U.S. government has not authenticated this note, Gotti. Remember, this was never included in the Epstein files. It's been under seal, essentially kept secret for years now as, again, a part of this cellmate's unrelated litigation with his attorney. That man still behind bars, I should add. We have reached out to him. We've reached out to his lawyer. But it's going to raise a whole host of questions, again, about transparency, about the fact that it was never included in the official file. As remember, given the fact that Epstein was found dead in his cell back in 2019, this was never a part of that file, although it's not the only suicide note floating out there, Gotti. I should mention 60 Minutes did a piece years ago about another purported suicide note, if you will, that was found in Epstein's file at the time. And if you've seen that note, it too has that phrase "no fun," and the handwriting looks the same. I'm not a handwriting expert. I'm not purporting to say it's the same note, but it's worth noting it's not the only note that's floating out there. Again, a possible suicide now just coming out for the first time we've ever seen this.
Yeah, not fun, not worth it. Very, very odd. And again, just to bring some clarity to the confusion, he died of a suicide, they say, a little bit after this, but he was injured in a suicide attempt around the same time as this note was found, right? He was, and he was actually transferred. So he was bunking with this individual. The man says that he found this note tucked away in a graphic novel. He turns it over to his attorney. Epstein is transferred, so he is not then still with this individual. He's transferred to another location when, in fact, he was found dead in his cell at that time back in 2019, Gotti. Yeah, another piece to this massive puzzle. Laura Jarrett, thank you so much.
Yep.
4,
Yep,
3.
anytime.
And let's bring in Washington correspondent for LA Times, Ben Weider. Ben, great to see you. By now, we've seen millions and millions of pages. We've seen thousands of videos, tens of thousands of photos of these Epstein files. Congress passed a law to release the files, but we're just barely seeing this note that was not part of the DOJ's release. Instead, it came from a court in New York. I mean, the obvious question here is there a lot more material that we haven't seen yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, there's still so many questions about what documents haven't been released. When the last big batch of documents were released in January, Todd Blanche, now the acting attorney general, had said there were millions more. Well, later they said, no, actually, we're done. Last week, journalist Katie Fang sued Todd Blanche in his capacity as the attorney general over the department's handling of these files and over questions of whether it is in compliance with the law. Because, key documents like this, the fact that they are just coming to light today is an indication that there is, potentially a mountain of material still out there that the public has not seen, which absolutely is in violation of the spirit, if not the letter of the law.
And yet, does this, what we're seeing today, does it materially change anything about the case so far?
I don't know that it materially changes anything, although, I think there is still a lingering question as to whether Epstein actually committed suicide or not. There are people out there, including Epstein's own brother, Mark Epstein, who believe that he did not commit suicide. So, the existence of a potential suicide note, if it were authenticated, does that lend credence to the idea that, in fact, he did commit suicide? Maybe it does. I mean, maybe it solves that mystery, which is, again, one of the many, many mysteries involved in the whole Epstein saga.
And yet, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. It is the biggest mystery out there, whether or not he did kill themselves. And there's so many conspiracy theories that still circulate today. Ben Weider, really appreciate your reporting on all of this. Thank you. And turning now to the growing concern over that cruise ship in the Atlantic, where 3 passengers have already died after a suspected hantavirus outbreak. Now, take a quick listen to the captain announcing the first of those deaths way back on April 11th.
This is my sad duty to inform you that one of our passengers sadly passed away last night. I'm told by the doctor we're not infectious, so the ship is safe when it comes to that.
A ship is safe when it comes to that. Right now, that ship is on its way to the Canary Islands in Spain. That's after 3 people were medically evacuated earlier today. Now, 2 of those people are in serious condition. They were taken to hospitals in Amsterdam. 1 was later transferred to Germany. As of right now, the 3rd person is asymptomatic. That makes at least 5 confirmed cases right now as passengers are isolating on board, creating eerie scenes on that ship. All of this as health officials are also trying to track down dozens of people in South Africa who might have come into contact with an infected passenger. And as the vessel makes its journey to the islands, Oceanwide releasing a statement saying, in part, additional medical professionals have embarked to the Hondies to provide optimal medical care during the crossing of ocean-wide expeditions. It remains in close and continual discussions with relevant authorities. We are unable to confirm the details of onward travel for the guests at this stage. Let's bring in Camila Bernal to talk a little bit more about these updates. Camila, people are still going to be on that boat for what looks like the foreseeable future. What's the latest with the ship and those that were evacuated?
Yeah, so they'll be on for at least 3 or 4 days. That's how long it takes to get to the Canary Islands. And the reality is that at least now they're not stuck. They are on their way to possibly being allowed off the boat. There are going to be medical examinations when they get to the Canary Islands. And we know that the Spanish government said that they're equipped for this. They'll have special transportation, special locations, and then everybody will be sent to their home countries. But a lot of these passengers still feeling uncertain about what happened here. You played that video of the captain announcing that first death. And I spoke to the man who actually recorded that, who is now off the ship, but who told me that initially he wasn't scared because he thought it was of natural causes. But he also did say that it was weird that the captain was going to make an announcement in the morning. He said they usually made them at night, which is why he recorded that. Here's part of what he told me.
It's very scary because it was nothing that we were ready for. I feel kind of disappointed of the journey because of the things that happened.
And this passenger told me that he got a blood test, that he doesn't have any symptoms, so that makes him feel a little bit better. He says he thinks more needs to be done in these cruise ships. And every country is really going to deal with this differently. Spain saying that their nationals will have to go to Madrid and quarantine there. They even brought up the idea of a 45-day quarantine because that's how long the incubation period is. Although the WHO says you might not need those 45 days. You really just need to get to day 0 and figure out where that person is in terms of the amount of days that they may need to quarantine, Gotti.
Yeah, so much easier said than done. What more are we learning about the Swiss passenger who got off the ship and then tested positive? How are officials handling concerns that he might have spread the virus off the boat?
So that's incredibly concerning for a lot of people because this is someone that actually got off the boat and then realized that he was having symptoms. He was already in Switzerland by the time he realized that maybe he did have hantavirus. And so what officials are saying is the good thing here is that you really do need to have very close contact with people. So either food sharing or sharing a bed, and that's the way it transmits. So if maybe he was at the airport and you weren't close to this person, then you're okay. So many of the experts that I spoke to told me people should not need to worry, even though it is a very deadly virus. It has a 40% mortality rate. The good thing here is that it is hard to spread, Gotti.
And Camila, the Netherlands being chosen here. I mean, Canary Islands and Netherlands, there are so many countries with amazing medical care in between where they are right now. Why was the Netherlands chosen?
So they haven't specified, but what I believe is that the operator is actually a Dutch company. They are based out of the Netherlands, and so they're trying to figure out how to operate in their land, essentially. And so the Canary Islands was supposed to be the last stop of this ship, but the ship and the company are based in the Netherlands. And so they were trying to offload everyone in the Canary Islands just because that was the last stop on this cruise. But a lot of it is going to be handled in the Netherlands because that is where the ship operates from.
And when it comes to that last stop in the Canary Islands, they've had ample time to set something up there. I know that the passengers definitely want to get off that boat, and yet there are some concerns. What is it going to look like when they pull into port? Are they going to be able to be allowed off? Are there plans in place for them to finally put their feet on solid ground?
So here's the problem. The Canary Islands, a Spanish territory, the local leaders there, they do not want that ship to dock there. And many residents there have spoken out and said they don't want the ship to dock there. But Spain, essentially the country, really has the last word here. And they have already said that, yes, they will allow people. And they have said that what they're going to do is make sure that no one on the ship is in contact with any of the locals, that everybody handling this will be professionals and they'll have just special locations for them, special transportation. And so they're sort of assuring the residents there, but the reality is that the locals just don't want that.
Yeah, tough. Those locals are seeing the global headlines headed their way right now. Camila Bernal, your reporting on this has been incredible. Thank you so much. I want to bring in Dr. Anne Ramoyne. She is one of the leading epidemiologists in the entire world. Her work over at UCLA is incredible, and she's teaching classes all the time on emerging threats, and then all of a sudden something like this happens. Doctor, what are you looking for as you watch how this is unfolding? What are you looking for when it comes to contagion?
Well, what we're looking for right now is we're looking for data. And we need a lot of data to be able to actually understand all of the parameters here. Right now, we know we've had some sort of an exposure, probably with rodents, in, it seems like Argentina, that we've had people die on the ship, get sick on the ship, that there could be transmission on the ship. And now we know which virus it is. It's the Andes virus, and it's a kind of hantavirus that can spread person to person. So we need to now understand exactly where these people have been, who have they been in contact with, what kind of contact, and that's going to help us really understand where we are. But right now, we're still in that information gathering phase.
And right now, we're still in the skittish phase from COVID, right?
Sure.
From the global pandemic we saw. It's like a big equation. A massive equation. When you think of COVID, we have a lot of the equation mapped out, and yet we still have some questions about the origin. How far away from determining an origin, where that moment where it went from rodent to human, and does it even matter in this particular case when we map things out, and how transmissible this is becoming? Because we're now 4 generations into it jumping from human to human, right? Or
well, we don't know, and that's actually the thing here. We still don't have enough information. What we know is we have the couple that passed away on the ship, the Index case, the wife, that they appear to have been doing bird watching in Argentina beforehand. Is it that they were exposed while doing this? It seems that that's what one of the hypotheses is right now. Then the next question is, did the other people on that ship get it from this couple? Was there just one generation of spread from this particular couple to other people? We don't have all that information yet. And I know it's very uncomfortable to be waiting for that information. We all want to have it right now, but that kind of data that's going to come from testing and sequencing and also testing the ship. You know, we have to understand also, were there multiple exposures, right? There could have been rodents that got on that ship that could have had, spread it as well. Those people that were also on the ship, they were also getting off of the ship. Some people also boarded in Argentina. So, I mean, there's so many different points to connect right now. That's why we really need to have this kind of epidemiologic outbreak investigation that's going to tie all of this together. And it's very complicated because there are people who got off the boat already. They've been, in other countries. There are, people who now have passed away. We don't necessarily know if we're going to be able to reconstruct all of their exposures. So it's a very complicated situation.
And yet, put this into perspective for us: the contagion of hantavirus, N0. I think I'm trying to remember back from the pandemic. This doesn't seem like it is highly, highly contagious, right?
Well, so the thing about most hantaviruses do not spread person
from human to human,
right? Most of them you get from exposure to rodent urine or droppings or saliva, and then the humans are kind of a dead end host. This particular virus, the Andes virus, is known to potentially have the ability to spread from person to person, but we don't really have that many cases of it. So we're still trying to learn about it. It does not seem like it's very easily transmissible, but we need more information. And so that's where we are.
And always, no matter how it shakes out, a good reminder of how unpredictable viruses and virus mutations can be. Dr. Anne Ramoyne, thank you so very much for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
And now to the war with Iran, where there could be a potential for peace. The president is saying that his administration has had very good talks with Tehran in the last 24 hours, but he made it very clear that the U.S. blockade on Iranian ports, that is still very much on. And just a few hours ago, CENTCOM confirmed the U.S. has fired at an Iranian-flagged oil tanker headed towards one of their ports. This morning, Trump posted on Truth Social saying the war will end if Iran, in his words, agrees agrees to give what it has already agreed to. So what's been agreed to? We don't exactly know right now, but Iranian officials say they are reviewing it. And even if they don't agree, the president says the war is back on, threatening, or if they don't agree, the war is back on, threatening that the bombing starts and will be at a much higher level and a much higher intensity than it was before. Now let's bring in NBC's Garrett Hake, who's at the White House tonight. Garrett, what do we know about this potential deal, and what's the difference between this plan and the old one? Catch up, Sue.
Well, we don't know as much as we'd like, Gotti. We know that this plan appears to be a little bit more streamlined, let's say. The Wall Street Journal has reported it can be condensed to just one page. The Iranians have confirmed that it is 14 points, but it still includes some of the sticking points that have been at issue since this conflict began, namely what happens to Iran's nuclear program in the future and what happens to the nuclear material it still has now. I tried to ask the president today about, what makes this moment different. I found his answer somewhat unsatisfying. It wasn't clear why he feels like this deal might be better received than others. And just for clarity, those are MMA fighters around him. So I tried to use a submission pun to bridge the gap between topics. Let's watch.
Can't wait to see.
You're facing an opponent right now in Iran that has refused to submit. You seem optimistic now that you may be closer to a deal. What's different about this moment now than in other moments where a deal has seemed close?
Well, why do you say they refused to submit? You don't know that. You don't know what's going on.
They were firing on U.S. ships a few days ago.
Yeah, no, a few days ago is a long time ago. In the world of war, a few days ago. No, they want to make a deal badly. And we'll see if we get there. If we get there, they can't have nuclear weapons.
So obviously the suggestion here is that things are moving pretty fast. We know there was some kind of Oval Office, Situation Room meeting about this topic yesterday. Gotti, we'll see when the Iranians respond if this time is different from the other, on the verge of breakthroughs that then weren't.
Yeah, on the verge of breakthroughs or possibly of a triangle lock or something like that. Very interesting to see all those fighters behind him. Yeah, I hear you. I mean, it almost worked. What is the situation in the Strait right now, though? Do we know, what the latest is? Because Project Freedom was instituted, then put on pause. Yeah. The blockade seems to be on. Iranian ports, those still seem to be closed, and there still seems to be some firing between U.S. assets and Iranians.
Yeah, basically nothing is moving through the strait is the bottom line here, Gotti. Since we spoke last night, there's been another instance of the U.S. firing on and disabling an Iranian tanker inbound towards an Iranian port that the U.S. says was not responding to its calls to turn around, that say was in violation of the blockade. So they had a fighter jet shoot at it to stop it. And yesterday, we thought it was one ship that had transited through the strait based on the tracking firm S&P Global. They keep an eye on these sorts of things. They updated their numbers today and found that the real number was 0. So traffic has stopped. It's just not moving. And I think that has increased the pressure around these negotiations once again, regardless of whether anything's actually moving.
And Iran's foreign minister, they met with Chinese officials, as I understand it. What do we know about how that meeting went?
Well, coming out of it, at least officially, everything was all positive. The Iranians thanked the Chinese for their efforts to negotiate an end to this war, for being kind of broadly supportive of the Iranian position here. The Chinese, for their part, said, they're standing by to help mediate, and they basically say they take Iran at face value, that they don't want to have a nuclear weapon. Gotti, I've been prepping for the president's trip to China for next week. And one of the things that's worth noting is that Iran, as Persia, has been trading with China since the Ming Dynasty, if not before. Their relationship is hundreds of years old between these two cultures. And so, I think it's worth remembering there are very, very deep ties here between these two nations right now that I don't think the U.S. is going to be able to effectively split necessarily just in this geopolitical moment.
And finally, back to the fighters. What were they doing at the Oval Office today?
They were promoting the fight that will happen here at the White House on the president's birthday as part of the lead up to the America 250 celebrations. The president was showing off some glossy images of the setup that will happen here on the South Lawn that could include tens of thousands of people on the property here. The president says maybe as many as 100,000 on the lawn. The president kept suggesting that maybe I should fight one of these guys, Gotti, but they look pretty tough to me.
Dude, I will be in your corner with your towel, and I'll throw it in.
Like on the
quickly.
outside?
Yeah, especially if it's Perea that you're going up against. Yikes. Garrett Haake, thank you so much. And here in California tonight, politics has taken center stage. Candidates for both the LA mayor's race and California's governor's race are facing off in back-to-back debates. Now, the debate for mayor's race had actually just started. Mayor Karen Bass going head-to-head with City Council member Anithya Raman and reality TV personality Spencer Pratt. In a couple of hours, 7 of the top gubernatorial candidates will share the same stage for another high-stakes showdown. And all of it comes just one night after CNN hosted its first nationally televised debate of the California's governor race, where the affordability crisis, health care, and immigration took center focus. Let's bring in Dana Griffin, who's been following all of these for us. Dana, what were some of the biggest takeaways from the debate yesterday? And what does this tell us about what the candidates are going to be focusing on tonight?
Yeah, it tells us a lot. There's a lot of ground to cover here, and it also shows that this race is still up for grabs. Gotti, we know last night Javier Becerra, who was constantly attacked by his opponents, which signals that he is now looking to be more of a threat. Many people coming after him for his record as Health and Human Services Secretary. Many people blasting him. We also heard from Katie Porter, who was asked a question about a caught-on-camera moment where she berated a staffer. Listen to how she handled a question about that incident.
Californians can decide for themselves about my temperament based on what they've seen here tonight. And if these boys bullying and bickering hasn't been enough to raise questions about their temperament, I would really challenge that.
Well, there you have it. And that staffer, by the way, Katie Porter did apologize to that staffer, and that staffer continued to work for her. Gotti.
And Javier Becerra saw a bump in the polls after Eric Swalwell dropped out because of those sexual assault allegations. What are his opponents focusing their attacks on?
So they're focusing on his connection to a criminal case connected to a top aide or a former staff or one of his top aides. Becerra said he had no involvement, and then he also went on to say if he had, the U.S. attorney would have indicted him. Gotti.
And turning to the L.A. mayoral debate, Mayor Karen Bass, challenger Anithya Raman, going head-to-head last night. Today, they are back on stage along with Spencer Pratt, who is going very viral here in Los Angeles for all kinds of videos that have been circulating around his campaign. But what's happened so far?
Yeah, so last night we saw Mayor Bass and Councilwoman Anithya Raman. They were at a community event where some of the topics were homelessness, affordability, also safety. That came up. Raman blasted Mayor Bass's homelessness initiative, saying that there are similar ways to have success at a fraction of the cost. And she says that Mayor Bass could have done more during her first term as mayor. Now, Bass, defended her initiative, and she also went on to say that she wants more officers in the city of Los Angeles, especially ahead of the World Cup and the Olympics that will be here in 2028. Gotti.
Dana Griffin, thanks so much. And we're going to have much more on the viral nature of that campaign, the entire LA mayor's race coming up a little bit on this show. And you can also watch the California gubernatorial debate presented by NBC Los Angeles and Telemundo 52 tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, right here on NBC News Now. And tonight we are remembering CNN founder Ted Turner, who passed away earlier today at the age of 87. NBC's Tom Llamas has more on Turner's legacy and how he transformed the news industry.
Ted Turner.
They called him the mouth of the South.
Early to bed, early to rise, work like hell, and advertise.
Ted Turner, a gutsy media titan that turned his father's billboard business into billions.
That was my father's advice to me, was do not set goals that are achievable during your lifetime. Set goals that are too high.
He saw a gold rush coming in cable and satellite TV, going into debt to buy a small failing Atlanta TV station, which he turned into TBS, calling it a superstation. And in cable, single-handedly creating the 24-hour news cycle when he launched CNN.
This is CNN.
Mocked at first, it grabbed the national spotlight during the first Iraq War, the O.J. Simpson trial, and turned political bickering
Liberalism is on trial right now.
into must-see TV. Earlier today, the network announcing its founder's passing.
For me, very personally sad, breaking news coming into the Situation Room. Ted Turner has died.
But CNN was just the start for Turner, who was also a powerhouse in sports, buying the Atlanta Braves and the Hawks, and a giant of philanthropy when he donated $1 billion to the UN to promote world peace.
I love this world of ours. It's a beautiful, wonderful place that deserves taking care of.
He was also one of the largest private landowners in the country, some 2 million acres of land, using it to promote conservation, including bringing back America's bison. He married 3 times, including to Hollywood star Jane Fonda.
He's a maverick. He's quintessentially American. He's the underdog who made it.
An underdog always willing to gamble.
If you want to be successful in difficult circumstances, you have to get over being afraid.
8 years ago, Turner revealed he had been diagnosed with Lewy body dementia.
I think I've led an adventurous life, and that's really what I wanted to do.
Ted Turner was 87.
Tom Yamas, thank you. And don't go anywhere. Coming up next, we've got a lot more ahead. Your eyes aren't going to fool you. Here it is May, and some parts of the country are still dealing with heavy snow, what you need to know. Plus, the latest on New Mexico and the Meta legal battle, as Meta is threatening to pull its app from that state. Stay tuned for that.
Claire, 90.
90 seconds. All right. We got 90 seconds to chat. Okay, so if you're new to the stream, this is a part where we've got maybe the commercials on the big TV, and then whatever you're watching on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, we can talk right here. So if you have questions about what we were talking about, feel free to throw them in. Let's see here. Market stock price, both fall. What's up, Danny? How's it going? AZ is trouble. MMA wifey, is that where you guys are? AZ. AZ is a beautiful place, though. Let's see, what else? Ted has a lot of cows in Montana. Ted Turner, I'm from New Mexico, and Ted Turner owned, I think he was the largest landowner there for quite some time. 45 seconds. We got 45 seconds. What else? Hey, how's it going, Doreen? Great to see you. All right, we're coming into headlines next. Oh, and then we'll go back into the politics of Los Angeles in just a little bit, because it is very, very interesting. But here's a quick political wrap.
30 coming out.
30 seconds out. San Antonio, nice. Maduro, we do need to do an update on Maduro. Seneca, Missouri in the house, wow. We broadcast from Los Angeles. We're at the Universal Studios here in Hollywood, or outside of Hollywood. Technically, Universal City. 7 seconds. Here we go.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. Here are some other headlines that we are watching tonight. Just as we thought warmer weather was upon us, Mother Nature has other plans, at least out there in Colorado. It's a snowstorm hitting the Colorado Rocky Mountains this week, with Denver recording more than 5 inches of snow today. Meanwhile, 13 million people across the South are bracing for storms tonight that could bring everything from hail to tornadoes. And over in Tennessee, the Special Forces veteran accused of shooting his wife has been found dead, ending that days-long manhunt. Today, police say that Craig Berry shot himself. His wife, by the way, was just released from the hospital. And Trump's Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, testified to lawmakers for several hours over his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. During a closed hearing, lawmakers pressed Lutnick on his contradictory statements about his relationship with the late sex offender. Lutnick has denied any wrongdoing. Former Attorney General Pam Bondi is scheduled to appear before that committee on May 29th. And Secretary of State Marco Rubio will meet with Pope Leo tomorrow during his visit to Italy. And tensions are running high between the Vatican and the White House, with President Trump lashing out at the Pope over the war with Iran. But Rubio denies that his visit has anything to do with smoothing over relations. And yesterday, the FDA authorized the sale of fruit-flavored e-cigs for the first time for folks 21 and over. Now, some health groups and parent organizations worry that move could drive up more underage vaping. And now to day 6 of what has been a blockbuster trial between two tech giants. Today, Siobhan Ellis, a longtime advisor to Elon Musk, mother of several of his kids, and an early member of OpenAI's board of directors, took the stand. That's her right there. And throughout her testimony, she described a complicated and evolving relationship with Musk that started with what she called a one-off at a work event, but the relationship soon became more personal. She says Musk offered to make a donation as a platonic sperm donor when she decided to become a mother. Last year, they welcomed a 4th child. Eventually, she said their relationship took a romantic turn, but when the OpenAI lawyer pressed her on whether that affected her decision as an OpenAI board member, she said this: "I had an allegiance to the best outcome, AI for humanity." Another big question surrounding her testimony was whether she ever funneled information to Musk after his falling out with OpenAI co-founders. When asked directly, she pushed back, "Funnel? Absolutely not." Let's bring in David Ingram, who has been following this from inside the courtroom. David, great to see you. Zillis, she's a key witness in this case. What were some of the most striking moments here?
Well, Gandhi, she testified for nearly 3 hours today, and she hit on a lot of different points. Really, the lawyers involved were trying to pin down for the jury exactly how to describe her position in Musk's world. The lawyer for Musk and for her sort of hit the issue directly and asked, "Were you just funneling information to Musk?" And she sort of thought about it for a second, said, "Funnel? No, not exactly." And she said that she was an independent board member, but she also described herself as a bridge between the rest of the board and Elon Musk, who was a co-founder. And a lot of the time was spent sort of thinking through these personal questions and how she balanced her personal relationship with Elon Musk with her duties to OpenAI as a nonprofit and her service as a board member.
Yeah, quite the balance. And there were some messages that were read in court that were pretty revealing, including one where she wrote to Musk, quote, "The trust game is about to get tricky." Do we know what they were talking about there? How did she explain that exchange? And were there any other messages that really stood out here?
Yeah, so this is at a time when she is continuing to talk with other OpenAI co-founders, including Sam Altman and Greg Brockman, who are now the co-defendants in this case. And she tried to sort of talk about this text message and these emails, and say that she was trying to keep communication open between all sides. From her perspective, she was trying to be an honest broker. At the same time, there are text messages and emails going back years with her and Elon Musk and other Musk staffers sort of strategizing about what they want to do with OpenAI. And a lot of it in those emails was about control, going back to the central question in the case: who had control of OpenAI and who's going to have control of OpenAI. Notably, in these years of emails and text messages between her and Musk and other Musk staffers, they're really not discussing sort of what's at issue in this case, the idea of preserving OpenAI as a nonprofit. They were focused back then on these same questions of how much control will Elon have over this organization.
Yeah. I mean, it's so easy to get caught up in all of the drama. And I know Zillis, I mean, her name kept coming up before her testimony today. Other board members wondering whether they knew, or others on that board knew, about who the father of her children were, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the big question marks that hung over her head?
That's right, and this is a complicated relationship that I think is different from what a lot of viewers may be familiar with, and it is so circle back to 2021. She gave birth to twins, and was telling people that it was through IVF, through a known donor, and through a platonic relationship, and she didn't reveal the name of the donor to many people, saying now she's saying that she kept it private for security reasons. Only later did it start to come out the following year, 2022, that Elon Musk was the donor. Given that she worked for Musk, this was certainly news at the time. and rattled a lot of board members at OpenAI. Greg Brockman testified earlier this week that the revelation that Musk was the father of her children, even via IVF, was enough to get the board to hold a vote on whether to kick Zillis off the OpenAI board at the time, given how complicated these overlapping conflicts were. And the board ended up not kicking her off at that time, but certainly that was sort of contingent on the board continuing to maintain trust in her to be able to balance all these competing interests.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see this case kind of morph sometimes into a biography. David Ingram, really appreciate your reporting. Thank you so much. And now to another big tech company right now on trial, Meta. They are on to round 2 in their showdown with the state of New Mexico. Remember, just last month, a jury said Meta was liable for failing to protect children on its platforms, hitting them with a $375 million in penalties. Now, in this second phase of the trial, the state wants the judge to figure out how to fix and eliminate these issues going forward. So they're looking at 3 different things. 1, the state wants Meta declared a public nuisance, which basically means they're doing things that interfere with the rights of the public. 2, they are asking for nearly $4 billion. That's $3.7 billion in additional penalties to fund mental health and education programs. And then 3, this is where New Mexico is going very, very big. They want Meta to change its apps for kids' accounts. We were talking things like stronger age verification, parent-linked accounts, algorithm changes. Meta says that is way too much, and now they're threatening to just pull Facebook and Instagram out of New Mexico completely if forced to comply. Joining us now is NBC News legal analyst Angela Sinandela. Angela, thank you so much for being with us. Could Meta really pull their app from an entire state in the United States here? How do you see that working?
Hi, Gotti. Yeah, so look, you and I have discussed a lot before about how these apps can track us in so many different ways and collect so many different aspects of our consumer data. So quite obviously, that means that they are absolutely tracking our location. So what this would really look like is more likely like blocking access to their apps, to Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, based on your location. So not necessarily pulling them, but just limiting people's ability to access them based on their location, Gotti.
Now, New Mexico, you can't call it small because it is one of the largest states in terms of land mass in the United States. I'm from New Mexico, but it's not the biggest population. It's a little over 2 million people. Do you see if they do have to change their algorithms, that expanding out to the rest of the world? Again, Facebook is used by billions across all of their different platforms. Do you see what's happening in New Mexico spreading elsewhere if they are forced to comply?
So certainly it's possible. If we're talking strictly legally, though, this court only has jurisdiction over New Mexico and over what happens within that state. But look, Gotti, there are over 40 attorney generals across the country who are also having similar lawsuits right now against Meta. So it is very possible that they will both be inspired and also perhaps scared, right, by what happens here. And so if these changes are required, it's possible they could spread, but not automatically. It would certainly take a lot of change. Also, this is really something that perhaps the legislature should take a look at. So perhaps we would see bigger changes in Congress.
Yeah, and you can see that on the state level as well as the federal level. And yet, just looking at these, I'm not a lawyer, but are these realistic? Are these like swinging for the fences? What do you see actually changing here?
So traditionally what happens is prosecutors absolutely swing for the fences and they try to see what they can end up with, right? So certainly they're asking for things that might both be legally and even technically impossible. So what I think is likely unrealistic is this 99% age verification requirement, because also that invokes privacy concerns. The more that you require accuracy of people's faces, especially minors, the more that invokes amendments of the Constitution. But what probably is very realistic is a public education campaign. And we saw that already being required with big tobacco and with opioids. So these types of education campaigns that inform parents and teenagers that social media could be dangerous and how to use it safely. That is something we would almost definitively see, Gotti.
a campaign that would probably not just be on television, but on the platforms that we're talking about. That'll be interesting to see. Angela Sinandela, always a pleasure.
True.
Thank you so much. And coming up, we are going to chat with NBC's Julia Ainsley about her new book that digs deeper into Trump's immigration agenda. Also, we're trying out a little something here. If you see this QR code, feel free to scan through. Chat with us. This is a two-way street, this show that we have. We want to hear from you. Take you behind the scenes, streaming on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch. Swing by and let us know your thoughts all show long.
All right, 2 minutes here.
All right, 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Guys, we got 2 minutes to chat. All right, what do you guys want to talk about? Yeah, New Mexico. Man, we'll see how much they get. That is quite the swing for the fences. Let's see, what are you guys talking about? American citizens. American citizens more watch this news. Wholesome news site. Are you saying that we're a wholesome news site? I'll take wholesome. You know what? It's fine. I'm wholesome and we're mainstream and I love it. And if I could get a mainstream media tattoo on me, I would. Just probably not where, you know, everyone would see it when I was walking around because you never know. NJ, we are here, Universal Studios. Well, actually, so I'm here at Universal Studios. I got to plug in this iPad before it dies. We're here at Universal Studios on the lot, and the rest of the team over here, that is 30 Rock, 30 Rockefeller. I mean, you got the ice skating rink in front.
1 minute.
The statue.
B to G.
B to G, okay. You got SNL there. So yeah, this is the best of NBC and also me. Best of the best is definitely the team. Let's see. What do you think the max we will see at the pumps? 550? Freedom Face, are you rubbing that in? You know where I'm in? I'm in California. 550? Are you kidding me? I would drive so fast to get there. No, it's like what, 6?
Yeah, the cheapest I can find is 6.
Yeah, it's like 6 around here. Whew. Let's see, Nintendo store right there. We do?
15.
15. It is. It's a great one, right? All right, 15 seconds. So we're gonna go here. San Antonio 415. Oh, they're so lucky.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. We are learning exclusive details from the early days of the Trump administration and their immigration policy. At the start of his term, Trump set a goal of deporting 1 million people in his first year. But leaders inside Homeland Security, apparently they were disagreeing on their master plan. At one point, those disagreements getting so heated, they could only diffuse the tension by emptying the room. Now, this all comes from a new book from our very own Julia Ainsley called Undue Process, the inside story of Trump's mass deportation program. Julia is joining us now. Julia, you have some exclusive reporting about those early days in the administration and the difference between Rodney Scott at CBP and Caleb Vitello at ICE in direction, right? And it really puts into perspective everything that we've seen since then. Can you break down how their approaches were different and which direction they ended up taking?
Yeah, Gotti, I think it's easy from the outside to think that everyone inside Trump's orbit and everyone at DHS was in lockstep with what the administration was really with what President Trump wanted to do when it came to mass deportations. But what this meeting reveals is that there were extreme differences, even ideological differences, about what they should be doing and what might be legal. In February of 25, Caleb Vitello, who was then the director of ICE, faced off with Rodney Scott, who was then and is still the Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection, over what they called the master plan for deportations that would have combined ICE, CBP, and the Department of Defense in one office in downtown D.C., and they would disperse agents across the country to arrest people with final orders of deportation. They had a list of 700,000 people with their last known addresses. But what Caleb Vitello said is he said a lot of these addresses are out of date. You could end up going into the homes of American citizens, arresting them without a judicial warrant, and fast-tracking them for deportation. They got so upset because Caleb Vitello disagreed with this, and the rest of the parties from Customs and Border Protection and DHS leadership said this is what had to happen. They had to clear the room. But pieces of this did happen. Caleb Vitello ended up being reassigned just days later, and although they never formed that hub of DOD and CBP and ICE inside Washington, they did allow ICE and Border Patrol officers to start going into homes without warrants this summer. We saw that in Los Angeles, Chicago, and Minneapolis.
And we've seen Trump's approval on immigration going down. And then there was Kristi Noem. She's out. So there's Todd Lyons. What's next for the administration's immigration policy?
Well, even though there have been some changes, a very key figure is still there, and that's Stephen Miller. And he's still having daily calls with the heads of ICE and Customs and Border Protection about what he sees going on in immigration. And he still is very close to the president. He's been one of President Trump's most loyal and longest advisors. And what we understand is that there has been a direction, really starting at the top at the White House, even with President Trump, to take immigration out of the headlines for a little while, make it a little bit less about the spectacle. They wanted a lot in the beginning because they wanted to show that shock and awe that President Trump had promised. But until the midterms, they want this to dial back, really because of what happened in Minneapolis with the 2 fatal shootings of American citizens, and especially the DHS response to Alex Pretty. We saw some rollbacks, and the new Secretary of Homeland Security, Mark Wayne Mullen, has put a pause on some things like entering homes without warrants and the expansion of warehouses to hold immigrants. They're no longer buying new warehouses or turning old warehouses into places that could become mega detention centers, but they are still holding immigrants without bond. They're still deporting DACA recipients. Those are people brought to this country illegally as children, some very young children with absolutely no say in the matter. And then they're also still arresting immigrants at ICE check-ins. And so what I've been told is that, yes, things may have cooled for a while, but they could ramp all this back up if Republicans do well in the midterms.
Yeah, Julia Ainsley, thank you. And her new book, Undue Process, is available now. And coming up, in the future of everything, the role AI is playing in political spaces as one mayoral candidate here in LA seems to be capitalizing on all that content. But first, you got to see this. Colorado police officer was surprised to find a skunk walking around with a cup stuck on its head. You see him right there. Try to get that cup off with like a catch pole. That would have been safer, but instead, he ends up just opting for the hand. Takes it off, and luckily the skunk just waddles off unharmed. Doesn't even cause a stink. We'll be right back.
All right, 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay, we got 2 minutes, and then we're going back into LA mayor race. Spencer Pratt, the AI videos, you probably have seen them. They're pretty wild. Let's see. Nintendo Store is in third. Oh, Rockefeller. Yeah, that is. I've seen that one. That one's great. I wish we got a discount there. Commander, taking something partisan just makes more work for them. You know what? We are talking about bipartisan efforts to legislate AI in a little bit, so you got to check that out. Gross. Well, what's gross? Tina, I missed it. Is it the $6 a gallon? Let's see. Oh, Lisa, how are you? Do you pre-plan these puns? Yeah.
Oh, wait, are we talking
Yeah.
like you got to see this puns? Do
Oh.
I pre-plan those?
Look, yeah, we
I
pre-plan
love a pun.
the puns.
I love a pun. I love a punny moment.
And we-
I love a punny moment.
And it takes us a long time to write it. Like, oh, it doesn't cause a stink. Oh, that's a good one. And then we, you know,
Seriously.
and then the best ones are the ones where like I love explaining the jokes because I don't think that you might have gotten it at home. So I'll just be like, see, it's a wordplay. So if you actually, and then you see everybody in the control room just quit, rage quit. 10 seconds? Uh-oh, here we go.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. Something is emerging out of the race here in LA for mayor at a scale we haven't really seen before. Republican candidate for mayor, Spencer Pratt, the former reality TV star, seems to be capitalizing on an AI-generated video that looks like a whole new kind of political attack ad. Steve Patterson explains.
A dystopian scene playing out in this viral AI-generated video that's adding fuel to an already fiery race for the next mayor of Los Angeles. It depicts a burning Hollywood sign and Republican mayoral candidate Spencer Pratt, a former reality TV star, as a Batman-like character. while his Democratic foes hosting a lavish dinner are portrayed in an unflattering light, to say the least. Democratic incumbent Mayor Karen Bass looks like the Joker. Democratic challenger Nithya Raman as a puppet.
Let's move the drug addicts closer.
And California Governor Gavin Newsom as royalty.
There's homeless drug addicts in front of the schools. My children aren't safe.
Look, if you were a transgender migrant...
Other celebrities also making appearances. The political parody racking up millions of views online. And if you think it's a glimpse into the future of political messaging, welcome to 2026. It's now. Even former Florida Governor Jeb Bush calling it maybe the best political ad of the year. But it's not clear this is exactly a political ad. It was made by Menace Studio, a production company that says it's pioneering synthetic images. The founder posting the evening of May 4th, quote, "I think I have to make a Spencer Pratt ad," and then dropping this video the next morning, perhaps a sign of how quickly such content can be produced. Neither the company nor the Pratt campaign responded to our request for comment on who paid for or commissioned the work. Spencer Pratt retweeted the video. Bass, Raman, and Newsom did not immediately respond to our request for comment on use of their likenesses in the video. We also reached out to Warner Brothers for comment on the use of imagery associated with Batman and did not hear back. Using AI-generated videos to send a political message isn't new. Newsom himself posted a video in December responding to a White House post showing the president, Pete Hegseth, and Stephen Miller in handcuffs. The White House is also not shy about using AI for shock factor. Just yesterday on Cinco de Mayo, posting this fake photo of minority leaders Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer in sombreros with a sign that says, "I love illegal immigrants." At least 15 campaign ads featuring AI-generated content have run since November, stoking fears the new tech could mislead voters ahead of the midterm elections.
With AI, you more and more can put words in people's mouths. You can have all sorts of candidates say things that they never really said, positions that they never really took. And that is something that is really terrifying.
At least 24 states already have laws regulating the use of political deepfakes in elections, including California, according to the National Conference of State Legislatures. But when third parties create political content, the line is not so clear. This latest video ends with people throwing AI tomatoes at their elected leaders, a bit of a sloppy ending to a new form of political slop that could have a growing impact on elections and beyond.
Political campaigns will never be the same. Steve Patterson, thank you so much. Still to come, we're talking AI transparency with one of the lawmakers pushing for that as part of a bipartisan effort. That's coming up next.
All right, Claire, 90 here.
90 seconds, all right. 90 seconds, and then what we're going to do is we are going to route the rest of the show through this thing called The Knock. But for us, we shot that a little bit earlier. It's with Congressman Beyer, and Congressman Beyer was with us for about 5 minutes before 4 o'clock on our time. So it was pre-recorded, and we'll route that through, and then I'm going to say goodbye in just a little bit, because by that time I will, be putting on my boot for my broken foot. Let's see, Marco Rubio as a DJ. Yeah, I saw that. It's not great. I'm going to put it on right after this. It's definitely feeling pretty sore. Lise, how are you feeling?
Same, pretty sore.
2-party system, I saw itself limits. I mean, the 2-party system is not necessarily something that was intended by the founding fathers, and yet here we are. So whether it survives the dawn of the AI age and whatever political disruption we're going to see, who knows? Oh, gotta listen. All right. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the show. It's a very important segment, and talk soon. Foundation Model Transparency Act, and joining us now is one of the congressmen who introduced the bill, Representative Don Beyer. Representative, thanks so much for being with us. What information are you looking for here? What information would this law make AI Sure, no problem. This is one of the most important issues that's facing us today, and I'm glad to see more attention put here. What kind of information are you hoping to get?
Well, Gotti, the biggest thing we want is for people to be able to trust these large language models that they're using. More and more people are using them. They're moving really quickly, and yet there's really no mandatory testing of any kind. The parallel we use is the FDA doesn't allow us to take drugs unless they've been tested thoroughly. So we want to, this is light touch. We don't want to suppress their innovation, but we want to know basically what they're trained on, not the details of all the data, but largely what the data is. And we want to know that they've been actually tested them.
And Congressman Beyer, I hate to put you on the spot, but how do you see the issue of copyright in the AI age? Should copywritten material be used to train models? Like, where is the line for you when it comes to replication?
Yeah, Gotti, that's a really hard question, but I'm with you. I don't think that, well, I think that with copyright, permission should be granted. I think it's just not fair to authors, for example, or people who produced a movie to have all of it just dumped into a large language model to be replicated by someone who never spent the time to write that book or make that movie.
Right now, the New York Times has been reporting that the White House is... Yeah, the White House, according to the New York Times, is reportedly considering this formal government review process over new AI models. That's a different tune to their initial pretty hands-off approach to AI. We've seen some things recently, the Mythos stuff. Do you think that plays into this? Why do you think that they are having somewhat of a change of heart potentially here?
I think Mythos really did change it, Gotti, and I'm really pleased they're moving in the right direction. In the first year or so of the Trump administration, it was very much a complete hands-off, accelerationist, let the thing go wherever it wants. And all the founders of artificial intelligence, the brilliant computer scientists who've been working on it for 20 years, have always been concerned about safety. And if we don't have safety built in, we're not going to have trust built in. Mythos, which basically makes all the cybersecurity defenses that all our companies have created worthless, has really woken up the president and his people to think we have to do something to regulate this.
Yeah, and when it comes to regulation, so much of that is going to require, both sides of the aisle working together. How much of figuring out all of the changes and recalculating how society at sometimes is held together is bipartisan right now? Is there enough work being done in Congress across the aisle to get something like this across the finish line?
You make the really good point that if we make it partisan, it's going to fail, which is why our bill has 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans leading it. We need to do it together. It affects everybody. It affects Democrats, Republicans, independents. And so it's really important. And we had 2 different presidents, Biden and Trump, that have both put a big safety council in the National Institutes for Standards and Technology, NIST. It's standing up strong, and we hope that it will continue to support that.
Yeah, Congressman Beyer, this is one piece of legislation we will be watching for, and hopefully it is, just the first step in a very long process. But really appreciate you stopping by. That's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gotti Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow. But until then, stay tuned to NBC News Now.